Like, let's try out for Spirit Squad this year. Like, let's be adventurous, and that we don't make the team, but we still worship at the Church of Paige Michalchuk. So that is where we live. That is the intersection of this podcast. Do you find yourself referring to things as cuckoo bananas?
Are you dreaming of the day Paige Michalchuk will call you hun?
Are you still wondering, whatever happened to Terry?
If so, you're one of us.
I'm Ari.
And I'm Asha.
And we're two friends who learned everything about life from the craziest school on television.
We'll be breaking down every episode of Degrassi The Next Generation and asking the question, does it still go there?
You're listening to
The Spirit Squad Rejects.
Hello, Asha.
Hello, Ari.
We're back for episode 2.
Yes. Episode 2 of our podcast, episode 3 of Degrassi The Next Generation, titled Family Politics. Mm-hmm. Who's tired of hearing about politics? I know I am.
In 2020, you thought that the real election, you thought the real drama was all about Trump and Biden. Oh, no. That's because you were not here for the Ashley versus JT debate of the century.
Fighting for the top spot at Degrassi as class prez.
For those who don't know, we are rewatching every single episode. Follow along on Degrassi's official YouTube page where they've posted every single episode for free. So go back, watch episode 3, Family Politics. Anytime you hear Ashley say something in a very Canadian accent,
well, for the first time in a month, I don't want to rip your eyes out.
Take a shot and watch along with us. A little tipsy.
A little tipsy, because I know I am.
What are we drinking today? Because today I have myself a cup of coffee, but I will say in honor of us being introduced to icon, star, one of the most legendary characters of the Degrassi franchise, Miss Paige Michalchuk. Today, I'm drinking some coffee, but I've called it New Year, New Latte, New Paige. Cheers.
I love that. That's so, okay, so, wow. All right, you know what? So I have like a medley of drinks today. I have my glass of water. I also have my cup of coffee. But what I've been sipping on all day for some reason, because I love day drinking, Cabernet, which I will proudly name Kerwin Cabernet after Ashley Kerwin. So
I love that. I feel like you're representing every single character from this week's episode. So the water is very Toby. He's kind of
bland, plain.
But you need him for the show. He's sustainable. Yes. We have the coffee. It's JT.
He's up, he's peppy, he's got activity. He's doing the most at all times.
That caffeine, that energy, we need that also. And then we have the wine, who's, like you said, that's Ashley. She's
kind of chill, but
a little dry, but also packs a punch.
I'm here for it.
We love just taking our beverages and turning them into Degrassi characters. It's a tradition on our show. So let's break down this episode. First, I should say that we were introduced to a bunch of new characters who are pretty much like main characters we're going to see throughout the show's run. So we have Toby, who we met last episode, but we really got to meet Ashley, his stepsister. We were introduced to Paige, the most fabulous and devilish, but also just amazing on every level character.
Love Paige.
Just layers to her, which I love. We were introduced to Spinner, and before all of you come from me, I know that last episode I said that Emma was the worst, and I stand by it because she kind of is, but I will say Spinner is equally the worst.
I mean,
crap.
Spinner goes through a journey. He goes through a journey, and it starts right here.
We also met, by the way, Terry, who has a special place in my heart.
I love Terry, and I just don't understand why we don't hype her up more. I just feel like Terry was like she was also the friend that I feel like you needed. She's a little insecure, but I really feel like, you need a friend like Terry to look at you like this, and then to also tell you, maybe you're being a jerk.
What is up?
Like, maybe rethink that.
We love Terry, so much so that we referenced her in the intro to our podcast. And I will say, not to get off track, but when you go back and you watch that Drake music video, she is snatched.
Snatched. I'm here for it. That's what I want to look like for my high school reunion. Snatched.
She was snatched. She was gorgeous. The face was beat. The hair was laid. She was looking phenomenal. So
you actually sent it to me when we watched it. You sent it to me and you were like, "That's Terry," and I was like, "No, it's not." You were like, "No, that's Terry." So Terry looks good. A lot of the characters that you meet in this first episode are the most essential characters and the most essential people that you see again in Drake's music video.
Mm-hmm. So I will say, so the plot of today's episode was we had Ashley and Toby, who are newly step siblings. Seems like they just moved in together, or their parents just moved in together, I should say. So they're really adjusting to the brother-sister setup. And Ashley, it's the first day of school. Ashley is running unopposed for student council president. And her stepbrother, Toby, to try and get back at her, has his friend, JT, who's kind of a jokester, has him run against Ashley in sort of a jokey, fake campaign. And hilarity ensues in good old Degrassi fashion.
You know what's funny? What made this episode made me think about? Like, it really, truly made me look back on my high school experience, and I was like, I don't even remember voting for anyone for class president. I remember those things existing. I just don't remember like being a part of it and like seeing campaign posters. I don't know if that just wasn't a culture I was a part of, or if I was just, mind you, there was 90 kids in our graduating class. I should have known who was the class president, but
it was very small. But I will say, as the former treasurer of the class of 2012,
okay, like I don't even remember voting for anyone.
Like, I don't even remember voting for anyone.
Okay.
I didn't count a single dollar. I don't know what the budget was. I don't know what was happening. So it was really just a title that I put on a college application, if we're keeping it 100% real. So to me, and this could have just been our school that we've been to, but this was very dramatic. And maybe it's like that at schools and they have like a debate and it's like a whole thing, and students run on like a platform with the issues that matter to them. But I always viewed it as like student council is just something you put on your resume, your high school resume for college applications. It's like, what can you actually accomplish as a student when like your teachers, shout out to teachers who have one of the hardest jobs out there, and like straight up don't even have a budget to like buy their kids, like buy supplies for their classrooms, and they're like spending their entire salary we stand teachers on this podcast first and foremost. Yet Ashley Kerwin is out here saying that she's gonna hold on, I'm gonna give you exactly what was on her agenda. She said she's gonna have an updated recycling program, which I'm here for, but again, how likely is that to happen? She was going to create a night dance, risky, and she wanted greater representation for students on the school board. But again, teachers are out here using their like hard-earned dollars to buy supplies for their classroom. But tell me how you're going to have a night dance, Ashley Kerwin.
I know that from firsthand experience. Like half the things in teachers' classrooms are like paid for out of pocket. And if they are reimbursed for it, it's not even like full reimbursement. So like it's hard out here being a teacher. It really is. Like you really have to care about what you're doing and care about the kids. So anyone who's still in high school or even college and you're listening to this, don't give your teachers a hard time. They don't get paid enough.
Facts. But so what were your thoughts as like someone who works in a school in that type of environment? What did you think of her, let's call it determination to be class president? I should note that it was the first day of school and she showed up with full-on posters, knowing that she wasn't running against anybody, She's unopposed, so I don't even know if it's technically a race if you're going against yourself, but she was unopposed and had posters that she created on the first day of school. You're a teacher, you walk in, are you rolling your eyes? Or are you here for it?
I'm kind of here for it. I'm like, wow, you came here on the first day early to hang up your posters. All right, girl, you can do this. You can actually be president when you get out of the school. You can be president of Canada. Like you can go out here and do it. Like I wouldn't say it's like I wasn't the student that would come to school early, but I'm the teacher that comes to school early. Like my call time is 8:30. I'm walking in at like 7:50, 8 o'clock. So I'll be early to school and make sure that I'm set up for the day. So I can appreciate someone that's like, okay, first day of school, this is my impression. Like I want to be president, I want to do this. And especially, I mean, they talk about how a grade 7 has never been the president before. So she probably has aspired to be this since 7th grade. So going in there in 8th grade and like, okay, this is what I want to do. In 8th grade, I'm like, wow, that's dedication right there. Like I appreciate someone who first day of school, you're ready for the first day of school. And it's not like, for me, first day of school was about getting dressed up, showing off your new school clothes and your new sneakers and seeing your friends you haven't seen all year. And she's really worried about like, I want to make a good impression. So
this is going to sound really nerdy, but I was a fan of the first day of school.
No, I like it.
I was here for it. Because at that point, I was like,
tired.
I'm tired. Summer vacation has run its course. There's still only so much you can do. I have new outfits that my mother drove me to the store to go get because didn't even have a license yet. Dropping me off at JCPenney thinking that I'm real fly. So I was here for it. I do love the fact that you said as a teacher, you're like, I'm here, I'm showing up early. Because that brings me to Mr. Simpson.
Oh my God.
Who shows up on the first day of school. His entire classroom is waiting outside of the room, looking in through the window like, I think this is our homeroom. Bell rings, still no teacher. Mr. Simpson comes like running in, very on brand for him. Comes running in and is like out of breath, and he's like, oh, sorry guys, all right, sorry I'm late. Hey Emma.
I want to know, where was he coming from? Was it a staff meeting where did you just come late on your first day? I'm just confused. And you know what's funny? So there's like obviously like a bunch of computer labs in the classrooms, but was that the exact computer lab that Emma had broken into the last episode? Is that Mr. Simpson's classroom?
It sure was.
So who was the person that was like, I think that's our homeroom? Emma, you knew because you were just in there. You can actually probably sit on the computer with your email still open to Jordan.
I was gonna say, she didn't even sign out. Jordan's emails were still up there. He was messaging her from his jail cell, which actually I do want to bring up. For me, I will say, and maybe it was just because I was coming off of the high of like such an intense first episode. It was kind of lackluster, this episode. What were your thoughts coming from episode 1?
It definitely was like a different vibe because because before the characters that they were introducing that we didn't really know and that we didn't really care about, it was like more excitement. This one was introducing the characters that we do care about, but it was just very like they had so many characters to cover that it was very bland. So it was like, obviously the focus was on Toby and Ashley's relationship, but then like in the midst of it, they scattered in pieces of characters' personalities. So they talk about Paige's personality, how she's kind of a jerk, but she's a little conflicted, but she's also very stylish. Shows Spinner's personality where he's like definitely a jerk, but best friends with Jimmy, who will only be referred to as Jimmy, or Aubrey. We will not refer to him as Jimmy in Degrassi because
he's not there yet.
He's not. It just seemed like a lot of stuff was like rushed through. So like even the progression of the episode, it was just like, what's going on? So it was a little bit all over the place, but I appreciated it. Actually, I kind of liked it.
I agree. And I will say that I appreciated that Emma was kind of on the back burner this episode because it's with everything she had going on, it's a lot. So let's really talk about like who was at the core of this episode. We have Ashley and we have Toby, new to each other's lives, let's say. That's sort of what I got from their relationship. Their parents either just got married or just moved in together, and
Yeah,
they
'cause-
are having issues.
Yeah. So it starts out with, Ashley's on her bed. She's talking. She wants to go to the bathroom. When she goes to the bathroom, Toby's in there. Ashley already is not off it. She's like, "Can you get out the bathroom?" And he's like, "How did you know it was me?" And she's like, "It's always you."
Valid point that I said valid point though on his part, because she just came out of her bedroom and like someone's in the bathroom and she was just like,
Yeah.
she's on the phone with Terry, we should mention. She's just like, not again, Tara, I'll call you back. Hangs up. And it's just like right out the gate, like, Toby, can you please get out of the bathroom? And he did have a valid point that he was like, how do you even know it's me? There's two other people that live in this house.
Yeah, like that just didn't make sense. But she just felt his vibe. She just wasn't off it from the jump. So when she saw that it was Toby, Toby was like, "Well, I got stuff to do too." And she's like, and she mentioned something. She goes, "A generous attitude makes for a generous family." And I thought it was funny because immediately afterwards she says, get out of the bathroom now." Take a shot for that Canadian accent. It's talking about being generous, but only if it's towards her. So she wants Toby to be generous towards her. So right now, we already know that Toby and his dad moved in with Ashley and her mom because Toby didn't live in this area before because no one knew him. And the only reason JT knew him was from camp. So this is Toby kind of moving into Ashley's territory. And Ashley doesn't seem very open to really having Toby in her space. And I totally get that. I totally understand not feeling comfortable having new people in your space when before it was either just you, your mom, and your dad, or just you and your mom. And now you have, a new brother, and both of them are, if I'm not mistaken, they're both only children. So imagine two only children now having a sibling, and they're fighting, and it's probably like new for them to fight. And like, they're not used to fighting with people and like, it's whatever, just move past it now. No, they're fighting and they still have to live together. So it's like, oh, is this how brother and sister are supposed to be? And it's very obvious that it is, because then later on, Toby mocks Ashley for her training bra. And I just think it was funny because I feel like my brother's done the exact thing to me.
I will say too, this is one dynamic in one relationship, and I'm sure I'll have more of these moments throughout the series, but I was really down the middle on this one. I was like, I see both sides. I fully get it. Neither one of them, like you just said, they were probably both only children. Neither one of them is trying to deal with the other's bullshit. And they weren't about it, and they weren't about each other, and that's a lot. I will say Toby's also starting a new school. So I was coming from the perspective of like, okay, clearly she was already a Degrassi student, so she had her friends there. With the exception of JT, Toby really didn't know anybody. So he, in his defense, probably had more of an adjustment just because
he didn't know anybody. And then like the people that he did meet were like jerks to him. Like Emma was like straight up like nasty.
So you don't really know anybody, and then you have a sister or a stepsister who is not really feeling you. Probably hard. But again, Ashley, from her perspective, is just living her life. She's kind of, let's say, I won't say at the top of the Degrassi food chain because that's where Paige resides, but clearly she's up there. People like her. They were rooting for her presidency. She's dating Jimmy, who's an athlete. So by the Degrassi standards, she's not the worst.
Yeah.
So I get it from her perspective too. She's like just wanting to kill it. Her eighth grade year going in, wanting to be president. And now she's dealing with this fool.
The senior year of junior high. That's why she was so hyped about it.
It's a lot. I think it's a lot to make posters over the summer. In my opinion, it's a lot. I thought it was a bit much because she had about 25 posters and she's posting them all about 2 feet away from each other.
This is a big school and they're posting them like in one hallway.
In one hallway, and it's doing the most. And like Terry's the one. I thought it was a bit much too, that it's like Terry's putting up the poster and then Ashley's standing behind her and she's like a little bit lower on the left.
Terry deserves
Raise
better.
it on the right.
Terry deserves better. You know, it was funny. Paige's introduction, I just loved her outfit. So as they're putting up the posters and stuff, I just thought that Paige showing up with those boots, the denim black capris, the bright red crop top that said hottie across it, and then the tinted
bedazzled.
Yes. But it shone. It was so shiny in the fluorescent light. And then she had sunglasses on. I think that for this whole episode, she's wearing sunglasses.
The whole time.
It was like an ombre. It was like black into pink. And then there was like a bejeweled like rainbow on one lens.
She has a chunky cube purse. It's a literal cube that is see-through, so you can see everything that she has in there. And
I remember
she shows
wanting
up, and this is us being introduced to Paige for the first time, and we receive one of the most legendary lines from Degrassi, a line that is still like, that this is still quoted in 2020. We get hit with,
New year, new look, new Paige.
as you guys know, if you listen to episode 1, I love Manny Santos, but I also really do love Paige, because there's something about Paige, and she's so mean sometimes. I mean, there's no other word for it. She's really mean, but she's also so good. Like, even when she's so bad, it's so good on every level.
She's like good at being mean, which is really weird, but it's like, but she's mean. She's like typical mean girl with like a mix of like, I care about you and I'm not gonna like do anything super crazy, but I also am a bitch. I'm a bitch with a heart. That's what she's a bitch with heart. That's Paige Michalchuk.
Yeah, and there's layers to her. We meet Paige and she is just looking amazing, looking fabulous. She low-key shades Ashley because she's putting up her posters, and Paige says something along the lines of, she was like, I love that you put so much like work into this. Like, you know, too bad you don't put all of this work into your fashion choices or something like that.
You'd rather focus on the issues than on your appearance. That's so admirable.
And you're just rooting for her from day one. And I do want to note that we cut to a scene of her in class with Miss Kwan, who is a Degrassi legend.
Icon.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now, come on now.
Goddess. I love Miss Kwan. Miss Kwan and Terry are the two people that don't get enough credit for how amazing they were and their contribution to the show.
Love Miss Kwan. But so we're in Miss Kwan's class, and Miss Kwan is encouraging her students to have some extracurricular activities. Paige Michalchuk raises her hand and lets us know that she will be creating a spirit squad this year.
Spirit Squad consistently, you want to talk about consistency? Spirit Squad stays consistent past generations. Like it stays being called Spirit Squad for a very, very long time.
There is a name shift eventually, but we don't acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's we don't talk about it. But we acknowledge it constantly as Spirit Squad. And if you're not catching on, Spirit Squad is their cheerleading squad. They're cheerleaders.
For me, I just want to point out that I always view Spirit Squad it's like its own character within the show. And a lot of the drama that ensues throughout the series, so much of it, like Spirit Squad is in the drama, which we love. But let's be real, like, you know me and you would not be on the team.
It's different from the typical high school cheerleading team. It just becomes more than just a cheerleading team. Personally, I just feel like it's just so much, and it's the center, or it's on the outskirts of like everything that has to do with Degrassi. So I that's why I feel like it's very important to the show. So we're the Spirit Squad rejects, because we're the like art kids who were like, let's try out for Spirit Squad this year. Like, let's be adventurous. And then we don't make the team, but we still worship at the Church of Paige Michalchuk. So that is where we live. That is the intersection of this podcast.
And before I wrap up our Paige introduction, that does bring me to my clip of the week. Today's clip of the week sums up everything you need to know about Paige in about 10 seconds.
Hi, my name's Paige, and of course Ashley's gonna win today. Sure, some students may resent her for being so perfect, but Ashley always gets what she wants, so why should today be any different? Actually, I'll tell you why today's different. See, I just got these brand new glasses, and I think they look rather nice with my outfit, don't you? Oh, and my belt. Please forget to close on the belt. Thanks. Beautiful, eh? And my new purse, so everyone can see all that I own. What did I have in here? This isn't mine. Hello, I'm not done here.
Let's break that down very, very quickly. Live for the fact that the purse was not functional whatsoever.
It was just a box.
Just a box. We love that. We also love that the reason that she was being filmed in the first place was to speak about Ashley and the election, and completely made it about her outfit and everything that she is and everything she has going on. And that is basically all you need to know about Paige in episode 2. Moving on though, Toby, as we said, he's not feeling his stepsister. He has the greatest idea ever. He thinks it's so amazing that he's going to have JT run against her as a joke, really just to piss her off. JT does not want to be class president, but he only agrees to it because he loves a crowd. He loves any type of attention he can get.
Then it's just him going on all these, like on the steps of Degrassi or like on the lunch benches outside, just promoting himself, talking about like, hey, you know, the staff washrooms, I'll make them the student washrooms. He's just saying he's going to do ridiculous things that like obviously he doesn't have the power to do. And he's not taking it seriously. And the only reason that he wants to do it is because he's like, it's a joke and I'm not actually got to do anything. And it's just to make my friend Toby's stepsister's skin crawl. So he's like, whatever, I'll do whatever for my friend.
So Ashley is pissed.
Yes.
You have a brother. I am an only child, but you have a sibling, and you have a sister. So let's say you are running. This is like the one thing that you've been prepping for this entire time. And your brother comes in and is like, I'm basically going to run my best friend's campaign so that you can lose the presidency that you've been talking about all summer long. Where are you emotionally?
Oh, I would make my brother's life a living hell at home. Like how dare, because you know how important this is to me. But also like stuff like the reason I can't relate to that necessarily because like my brother didn't do, and I never went to school with my sister, but my brother never did stuff like that. I can relate to like sort of having someone in my space and kind of taking everything away from me that I feel like is important. Even small things, just like I want to use a certain pot. Someone else in the house is using a pot and it's like, why would you take that pot from me? Like, that's the one thing that I wanted to use. So
family
I can
politics.
sort of understand. Yeah. And it's funny because like they're going to therapy. They keep referencing how like, you know, the therapist keeps saying we have like, you know, we have to be open and communicate with each other and like, don't do anything that's going to disrupt like the order of the household and stuff like that. And Toby is just straight up like, nah, that I like, I'm going to do what I want, but I'm not going to make it obvious that it's me doing it, even though it is to Ashley. So,
but I think it brings us to the name of the episode, which is family politics. I think it's so relevant on many levels. On surface level, it makes sense because we have this campaign that's happening and Ashley is running for student body president. But when you really break it down, it really does go into what's happening within her household with Toby. Because family is an interesting dynamic. Like I said, I'm an only child. I don't have siblings, but like that like family politics, that is a real thing.
You get into like later on, you see Ashley confront Toby, and then Ashley's mom, Toby's stepmom, walks in and she's like taking, like very clearly sort of taking Toby's side as Ashley's going off, because it's like, there's so many levels to it. It's like, well, my daughter knows how I feel about her. And, you know, maybe she's just a teenager and being hormonal. And also Toby's my stepson. I should defend him because I don't really know that much about him. And I don't want to accuse him off the rip that he's doing this to my daughter. And also
win him over a little.
I don't want, I don't want to be an evil stepmother. Like, and that's it's so easy to sort of fall into that evil stepmother as soon as you disagree or like reprimand your stepchild. So that's and then Ashley accuses her mom of taking Toby's side all the time. And how do you fix that, or how do you sort of repair that before it gets too bad?
What do you think is the best way to sort of navigate family politics? Let's just use that. That's the term of the day, family politics. But it exists and it's real. And it's sort of, I think on a certain level, like what you were just saying, your sibling knows that you want to do something and they're getting in the way of that is sort of one way to view it. But also on like a deeper level, certain family members may be having one way that they want to live their life, and maybe assuming you are thinking that you need to live your life a certain way to meet their criteria. That all I feel like can fall into the bucket of family politics. And what do you think? What is your way of navigating that?
So that's a really good point, because that's something that I feel like a lot of people go through all the time, but like definitely something I'm going through like right now, having family members that feel like I should be doing one thing and then I want to do something different. And it's like trying to figure out right from wrong, and like not, and it's harder when it comes to family, because you want to, you know, on some level be accepted by everyone in your family and have them like you and respect your choices, but that's not always going to be the case. And people are going to get in the way of how you want to live your life if you let them. It's sort of like figuring out how to funnel what information you really want to get, and if you should apply that to how you're living your life, and then sort of block out the rest of the bullshit. Always consider the source. That's what I meant to say. Always consider the source, whether it's family or not.
And I think to add to that too, it's like that's where the politics of it all comes in, because it's like I obviously don't agree with this family member and their opinions and views of me and their perception of me, but do I speak up and disrupt the family dynamic, or do I just appease them and go like, okay, yeah, and yes them to death, but really like in one ear out the other? Or do you like actively speak your mind? And that's sort of where the politics comes in, because it's like, okay, well, this person is an aunt or an uncle and they're older and it's a level of respect, but it's also, this is my cousin's mom, my cousin who I'm super close to, and it's like so interconnected. And I think that's sort of where the politics of it all comes in. And I think it ties back to, in my opinion, the real victim this episode, Toby's stepmom, who it's like what you said before, it's like isn't, again, like such a predicament, because she's like, do I automatically go to my daughter's defense because she is my actual daughter that I gave birth to, or and also do that and then deal with the repercussions of now my stepson, who I'm, let's be real, probably trying to win over. She wants everyone to get along, so she doesn't want there to be tension. And now if I go against him, he's going to automatically be like, oh, well, of course, because that's your daughter and you're going to be on her side. So it's tricky. But I feel like the one thing about this that was so relatable, because I could not relate to the whole campaign thing because I just didn't come from that. Neither did you within our school system. The one thing that was so relatable and still relatable today was sort of like family dynamics and how to navigate that.
That whole blended family situation is very, very difficult. It's I feel like it's something that a lot of people go through, but if you don't understand it, it's uncomfortable to talk about. So like I have my mom and my brother, and then I have my half sister and her mom, and then I have my dad and then his current wife now. That's like 3 families right there, and that's a lot of stuff. And it's like, if we all lived like in the same neighborhood, how would you integrate that together? So I think it's really interesting, as opposed to like when you were growing up, and I don't want to speak on like how it was for your family, but it was your mom, your dad, and your grandmother and you, you know, so that's different. But the only people that you really had to deal with were your parents and your grandmother, and then occasionally like your family that came over. So was the dynamic that you can do no wrong, or was it like a lot of pressure on you to do the right thing all the time? Or
I think from like an only child perspective, obviously I cannot speak to the blended family aspect of it because I don't have that, and that's not something that I am familiar with. But I can see how complicated that can get, because family in general is complicated and navigating those relationships. So now, like you just said, when you're trying to blend multiple families, it's a lot, and that's a lot to digest. I think for me, I can speak to like the only child perspective of it all, and just, it's a lot, because you don't have someone to bounce off of, in the sense of like, if you don't have a sibling, even just one, it is kind of like all eyes on you. There is no other like, oh, well, your brother messed up today, so it's like, okay, cool. That the ball's in his court. Eminem was not joking. You only got one shot. So, but I understand it. So that's really interesting. I'm glad that you shared that, because just to get that perspective too, that really does make sense. And it furthers my point from earlier about how like, I'm really down the middle on this one.
Yeah.
Like, I truly see both sides, and I get how complicated and convoluted the situation is. But I'm excited to like really dive into that relationship further, because I think it is sort of one that I overlooked. I'm going to be honest, when I started this episode, I completely forgot that Ashley and Toby were stepbrother and stepsister. Like, I completely forgot about that.
It's definitely not something that, like, I feel like a lot of these first few episodes just establish relationships, but in terms of storyline, there's not a ton of stuff that's in these first couple episodes. You just like, even the storyline with Emma last episode, it's not something that is like a reoccurring thing. Like, this is the setup. This is like what her life is kind of like because of this one instance. It's just, this is something that happened, and it was really important to bring awareness to that. And I think that this episode doesn't get enough credit bringing away, because even me watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that this is what happened. Toby continuously says throughout the episode, she's not my stepsister. So he doesn't even, not that he doesn't consider her a sister, he doesn't even consider her a stepsister. Like, that's how badly he feels towards her. And I don't even think that it's like a hate thing. I don't think that he's like, oh, I'm disgusted by her. It's just literally, we don't know every circumstance which brought Toby and Ashley's parents together, and what resentment or how they may be feeling, or specifically how Toby may be feeling for him to not even consider Ashley a stepsister.
The thing with family is that it's like, but like the older I get, the title, whether it be cousin, whether it be uncle, whether it be, you know, whatever that relationship is, the title doesn't mean anything. It's about the relationship and the dynamics of the relationship. And you can be my cousin, but if I have no relationship with you, you hold no weight to the decisions I'm making in my life, to whatever choices I'm making. That's what's important, the dynamic, the relationship. It's like you just said, like, once that relationship was really blossoming and the communication was there, it's like, that's when there's more meaning to the word sister. Yeah. Like, that's when that bond really forms, and it actually makes the relationship come to fruition.
Yeah.
But something to bring up, and it's a point that you made earlier, and you were comparing this episode to the one with Emma, how Emma was, I just want to give one thing that I really loved about Degrassi, and I do want to give credit to this, because I know we are approaching this from a very jokey perspective, but like, one thing that I've always really admired about it is that there's such an ensemble cast in this show. And you can tell just from the opening credits, it's like a million actors. But one thing that they do beautifully, last episode, all about Emma, her home dynamics. We're seeing her, and she has a single mom in that relationship. And now this is all about Ashley and Toby and their family relationships and what goes on at their home. And it's something that's very different than I think a lot of teen shows. Everybody has their moment. That's one of the things that I really love about it, because it adds like so much color to these characters. And it really like completes their story, and it makes them so dynamic. And you have moments where you're rooting for them, but then you also have moments where you're not rooting for them, but you still understand where they're coming from.
Every single character, you get, even if it's a glimpse, you get an understanding of where they're coming from, the direction that they're going, how, like, why they may act the way they do in school and why they may act the way they do at home. And and I think that's important to realize, that these characters aren't just people you see in school. They have lives, they're people. And I think that's something that a lot of us like don't even really register a lot of times. Like we think about like just in our day-to-day life, it's like, you know where I come from, you know where I'm living, you know my work life, like because we talk all the time, and vice versa. Like I know like a ton of stuff about you, so we see each other as like these well-rounded adults. But it's another thing where you see like when we went to high school or even in college, like we would see these people in our dorm rooms or we would see them in the hallways, but we weren't like, and they would act a certain way and you never really understood like, why are you like that? You're just a jerk, or like, or whatever the case may be. Like, why is Ashley so ready to campaign on her first day?
The election's on Friday.
Like, why is Liberty Van Zandt like just in your face? Like,
We haven't met. I'm Liberty Van Zandt and I'm running for secretary.
like why do these characters act the way they do? And it's, you know, because of their home. It's part of it is because of their home life, or they feel like they can be a certain way at school, or they have to be a certain way at school. These people aren't just faces in school or faces in the hallway or just somebody you see in the street. They have whole lives and whole stories, and
They're not two-dimensional.
Exactly.
Fully formed characters. You brought up Liberty, and I do want to touch on her briefly because we do meet Liberty this episode, and she is a lot. She's doing the most.
Like Liberty, honestly, for me, she sometimes is just worse than Emma personally, because I just feel like she tries so hard, and it's so much and it's so intense, and I admire that she's able to do that, because I'm like, wow, she's so driven. She's has this opinion and she's very forthright in executing whatever decision she makes. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, calm down. Like, why?
She was doing the most.
Yeah. She's one of the very few Black characters. So I can't dog her too much, because I'm like, all right, representation, you better go ahead, girl. But when she goes up to Ashley to say that she is running for treasurer, she is
secretary.
Oh, sorry, secretary. I'm sorry. See, I'm thinking about you.
I don't even remember voting for anyone.
Running for secretary, she is so in Ashley's face, already talking about what like what she's gonna do, like what the plans that they have for the year, like already in it, like so intense. And Ashley's like, yo, I didn't even win yet. Like, so the fact that Liberty's coming up to her like, oh, you're a shoo and you're gonna win, and she's in her face, Ashley's like, okay, calm down. Let me do one thing at a time. And
I do want to note though, and no shade to anybody who holds the secretary position at their local student council. However, I do want to specify the fact that she was running for secretary because she came up to Ashley and was like, oh, I want to make sure that our issues that we are sort of campaigning about align, and the views that we have and all the projects that she wanted to work on and these things that she's like campaigning on. And I just want to read the role of a student council secretary. The secretary is responsible for taking accurate notes at all meetings and reporting those notes to the council before, during, or after. You're just taking notes, Liberty.
You didn't have to do all that. I mean, the only defense I have for her is maybe she wants to be president when she's in 8th grade, so she feels like she has to be super intense. But I feel like
go for VP.
That's what I'm saying.
She sold herself short. Why the hell are you going for secretary, girl? Be VP. You're better than that, Liberty. You're better.
She just does too much. Her character development comes a little slow for me, but I'm a little frustrated that they start her off being so obnoxious and then she stays obnoxious for so long. That's why I feel some type of way about it. That's why I'm just like, I have mixed feelings and I'm just not really sure. But, you know, it is what it is. Liberty's out here aligning
I think we learned to love
policies. Her. Yeah, eventually.
She goes through some stuff.
She aligns her policies with Ashley, and she seems like she's here for Ashley. So, you know, go ahead, girl, be your secretary of defense, whatever it is.
But so to round out the plot of the episode, Ashley finds out that sort of JT's running on this like fake campaign, and it's just really to piss her off. So she bribes JT to pull himself out of the race. The episode comes to this sort of face-to-face between Ashley and Toby at Degrassi, and she made a good point. She basically says, you are everywhere in my life now. I didn't have a sibling, and now you're everywhere. And this is the one thing that I had that was mine. And you came in here trying to like take it from me. So I feel her. Here's my issue, not with her, but with Degrassi. I'm going to come for them hard right now. She ends sort of this conversation with Toby and sort of ends the episode where she's like, he basically says, I'm going to tell the whole school that you bribed JT. You paid JT to pull himself out of the race. And she's like, no, please don't do it. Explains where she's coming from. This was my thing. You took it from me. Then goes, just listen to my speech. Please listen to my speech. And I'm telling you, like, you will understand where I'm coming from. Please just listen to my speech. Cut to her winning the election. How are you gonna not show us this damn speech?
Didn't even. And mind you, JT, we heard most of JT's speech where he's just being a jokester. He was like, I'm an idiot. I can't do anything. Don't feel bad for her. Feel bad for me. Also, I'm dropping out of the race. Vote for Ashley. And Mr. Radish, who never smiles, I swear, he was just like, okay, very interesting. Are you sure? And JT's like, yeah, I'm sure. So then Ashley's like, yeah, just listen to my speech and see if you still feel the same way. She walks up, or she walks away from Toby, and then we don't see the speech. And then everyone's like, congratulations, Ashley. And I feel like that was sort of important for us to see. I
just want to say that I dead ass thought that my YouTube clip that I was watching had fast forwarded by accident. Like, I thought I had hit something because the way it just cuts from them having this conversation to now she won, I was just like, are you kidding me? But to go back to the JT thing, the most mic drop moment of mic drops, he's basically using his speech as like practice for stand-up comedy because he's a jokester. Ends his speech like you just said, and he's like, thank you, goes to sit down, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm pulling myself out of the race, vote for Ashley. It was the best thing that ever happened in that episode. Like, I lived for that. To wrap it up, basically, we found out that Ashley did win, and we sort of end this episode with a very kumbaya moment between Toby and Ashley, because obviously he did not rat her out to the school. So there was sort of this like this moment between them. What were your thoughts on that, on the ending?
I thought it was nice that they like finally sort of came to, I don't want to say an understanding, but it was like, oh, I understand you a little better and you understand me a little better. And just that little ending freeze frame with Toby, I just really enjoyed it because I was like, okay, fine. Like, that's sort of to wrap up everything we're talking about, family politics. That's sort of where we all should be coming from when it comes to family. It's like, or anyone, but trying to understand where someone's coming from and understand their side, and like either sympathizing or empathizing or a little bit of understanding can go a long way. You can like hear people and listen to people, but you don't really understand why they act the way they do or why they say the things they say. So when Toby finally understands and makes this decision not to like sort of take this one thing from Ashley, I think that's the start of what their therapist has been talking about this whole time. I think it's funny that they kept referencing the therapist the whole time, but obviously they weren't heeding. Yeah, seriously, like they weren't heeding anything the therapist said until like the end. It was like, you know what? This Ashley winning this campaign on the grand scheme of things is not going to really affect things at home. But if I make her lose and humiliate her at school, it'll make things more disruptive. And even just that little bit, it's like, you know what, fine, have this, because this is the one thing that you feel like you don't have. So have this. So I think I really like the fact that it ended that way.
Same. I agree. All right. So to close out the episode, we didn't have Jordan level drama like we did last episode, but what was the moment for you that made you go, if Degrassi goes there?
I would have to say probably the moment where Toby first says she's not my stepsister. I think that was really like, whoa, like tell me how you really feel. So I was like, that's really intense. I feel like that moment sort of like set, like if it wasn't for them bickering in the beginning, which was like whatever, it was like, okay, they're bickering like brother and sister, but for it to go even further, for him to not even acknowledge her as his stepsister, I thought that was like, that kind of went there for me. That definitely is like an intense statement. That's like I was saying before, like if I started saying that's not my sister, that's just someone that I share blood with, that's like an awful thing to say, you know? I don't think Ashley ever said anything like that. Like, that's not my stepbrother, but she was just very frustrated by him. And Terry even said, you know, you guys fight like brother and sister. Welcome to having a sibling. Like, so yeah, that went there for me. What about you? What moment was Degrassi goes there?
My moment where I was like, it goes there, was a little bit comedic. Ashley basically bribes JT to pull himself out of the race, but she didn't just like find him in the hallway and pull him aside. She sent Jimmy and Spinner to go retrieve him like they're her henchmen. They grab this poor boy, okay, who's looking like he's like 4 feet shorter than they are, even though they're literally a year apart.
I didn't understand that.
The two of them like manhandle him, grab him, drag him to the back room. I don't even know where she was. She was in like they were dodgeballs, but she wasn't in the gym. She was in like a locker room, and they just like drag him, toss him in like he's just a piece of trash, and they're just like, okay, and then they just walk out.
It was definitely like a Goodfellas moment. It's like he's about to get hit or something. Like it was crazy.
It was so dramatic. And I was just like, you know what? It goes there. Because this was a simple conversation that the two of you could have just had in the hallway. She could have just been like, hey, can I talk to you real quick? Pull out some cash, bribe him off. I was like, you didn't need to drag him through the entire school. They went through the cafeteria, through the hallway, through the media immersion room, which is a one-way exit. They went around the computer. They emailed Jordan for Emma. They responded back, hit send, and went back to the end. Like, they didn't need to do all that. They didn't need to.
That's hilarious. They emailed Jordan.
It's just the most.
Yo, I definitely feel like that showed a glimpse of like Ashley's power, for lack of a better term. Like she definitely has pull. Like we found out that, you know, we were introduced to Paige Michalchuk, who definitely is like the popular stylish girl, but she doesn't seem to have many people around her. And even the guy that videotaped her like ran away from her after the fact because he wouldn't listen to her talk anymore. But Ashley, she actually has Terry that like sort of is putting up posters for her, and then Spinner and Jimmy, who are literally grabbing kids out of the hallway and then bringing them to her. So like, it's funny to see the kind of pull that she has at the school that like other students don't seem to have. So I think that was funny.
People do things for her that she should have no problem doing on her own.
Yeah.
Like Sis can grab a piece of tape and put up a poster herself, and she can go and have a conversation with a grade 7 boy. Like she doesn't need to, she has henchmen, she has Terry who's doing her work for her. I think, and maybe we'll see this throughout the season, but I really think that like she is like low key, she's like the puppet master. And she's low-key strategic, and she's making moves and keeping counts on people, because Paige, it's like you said, like she's the fashionista. Like, yes, is she the queen bee to a certain extent? Yes. But like, I don't know, there's something almost diabolical about Ashley.
Yeah.
That I think we'll investigate probably later on.
Yeah, her power kind of goes to her head a little bit, and you can see it just a little bit in that first episode. It kind of gets very intense all of a sudden. It's like, what? Like, why did that happen? But
you know why? Because it goes there.
Yes.
And that is how we end out our episode. Thank you for listening. Thanks for taking a seat at our table in the cafeteria as we broke down all the gossip and drama. Go visit the official Degrassi YouTube page. Watch episode 4, watch episode 1 through 3 too, and maybe take a little bit of the tidbits of information that we've thrown out there, and maybe you'll view the episodes from a different perspective. Asha, thank you so much. You're one of my favorite people, and I love doing this with you.
Me too. I love doing this with you. The time just flies, and I enjoy talking about Degrassi with you.
So thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye, guys. Episode 3 of Degrassi. Family politics.
We forgot what show we're reviewing for a second.
I know. I was like,